welcome back to my channel. I'm Tony, and if you follow me you know that we're right in the middle of building a HPI Racing Baja 5B, and this is what I'm calling my in-between kit build, or while I'm waiting for my wrist to repair. So if you are one of my tankers and you've tuned in and it's been a while since you've seen me, I broke my wrist a few weeks back, and I really struggled to continue with the Series 1 Land Rover, but in the interim my son's got together with a company called Wheelspin Models up there in Cannock and arranged for me to build one of these amazing kits from HPI Racing. So as soon as my wrist is back and healed, I'll be straight back onto my Series 1 build, and I'm looking forward to getting that going again and getting it completed, because I absolutely love and enjoy building that kit. But in the meantime, we're doing this incredible kit from HPI Racing, and when we left off last time, I'd installed the fuel tank and the receiver box, which also holds the batteries. I also installed the steering servo, the main steering servo, but like an idiot I'd ordered the wrong servo for the accelerator and brake. Wheelspin Models have been brilliant, they've swapped that around for me and now I've got the right servo. So I've installed that now, and I'll just turn this on and turn the handset on, and we can see, I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but I'll turn it around slightly. The steering servo is doing what it's supposed to do, and now I've got the accelerator working and the brake, so that servo arm is in the correct position as per the instructions on the HPI manual. So that's all done. So we'll just turn that off, turn the handset off. And today's session is going to be building up the main bulkhead and starting the rear carrier plate. So what I'll do very shortly is I'll reposition the camera, we'll get stuck in. I'll probably get Ben to speed up a lot of this part of the front part of this build because it's very similar to the front section here, and it could be quite tedious for you. So anyway, I'll reset the camera and we'll get started. Right, so for this part of the build, it asks you to open up kit bag D, and there it is. So let's open this up and see what we've got. Let's just move the instructions out of the way. Find my knife. There. So let's open this up and see what we've got. So obviously, it's like the big. Right. So we've got bearings, a couple of shafts. This must be the ones that connect to the drive shaft, I guess. So what we'll do is we'll just clear this box up a little bit, open this up, this is the thing with a wonky arm. Here we go. So we've got 4 bearings, they all look pretty much the same. Pop those in there. A couple of shafts, metal shafts, steel, beautifully made, absolutely beautifully made. So pop those in there, and got some rods. Pop those in there out of the way. That goes in the rubbish. And we've got various fixings. If you are going to build one of these, or you're looking to build one or considering it, I will say that it takes a little bit of time just to, let's just pop those out, to get your head around the instructions. But once you get going, it's actually really straightforward. It's just so different to the Armortech build. Different size fixings there, so you've got to be careful of that. So let's just pop them in separately, slightly shorter. A couple of pins, big pins, and various different, a couple of grub screws, and I'm just going to separate these out. They all look the same to me, those, so pop those in there out of the way. So yeah, like I said, if you're embarking on one of these builds and you first open up, you start looking at the instructions, and I don't know if you remember from the unboxing video, I nearly passed out when I opened them up. So I am going to build that, but it's just familiarising yourself with the way it's laid out, and once you've got your head around that, it's actually really straightforward. So that's a beautifully made feels like aluminium, but again it's got that metallic sort of gunmetal sheen to it, the grey sheen, which is part of the same, exactly the same as the main chassis. At this stage I've no idea what this part is, forgive me if you're a Baja specialist. I'm learning as I go, learning on the job, and some other cross members we've had similar to what we put on the front. So these are again aluminium, beautifully finished in that metallic grey, and then we've got big old nut. Again, no idea what this is, so if you're watching this and you're an experienced builder, please forgive me, but you know, that's how we all learn, right? So let's just pop that out of that bag. That's metal and finished beautifully. There's another one here, so it's obviously left and right. It's got to be something to do with the drive mechanism. It's got to be, hasn't it? So anyway, that is the last of those, or that last of that bag. So we can now clear all of that out of our way, and so that's it. So next part is to build up this sort of bulkhead thing here. So I'll just spin this around for you. So here we just got to go and find all these plastic parts, clean them up as we've done before, a couple of these nut lockers as we put in previously. So I'll go and do that, and we'll get started. Right, so I've found all the parts I think I'm going to need. That's already come off its parts tree, so there's no cleaning up to do on that, so that's fine. This one is also required, and the only thing I need to clean up on that is just this end piece here, and they can go in the rubbish. So the two parts that we need for the bulkhead. While I'm looking and searching, I found the rear, what would you call, suspension arm, this piece here. So it is on tree number 85402. Again, these are clearly labelled on here, don't you? You can see that in the camera. So you just need to find the right part, cross-check against the instructions, and then you just clean it up. For now, I'll just pop that part over there. Not sure when we're going to need that. And then we'll just clean all this up on both sides. It's rubbish. So that's one of the suspension arms, and here's the other one. And once I've got all this done, we can start the build. Couldn't be easier. Look at that. So move that out of the way as well. So now we've got all the main parts that we're going to need to build. We can start the build. So the only thing I need to trim now are these nut lockers, and I think from here on in I'm going to ask Ben to speed up the entire process. So that's the suspension arms installed and the bulkhead installed. Really straightforward, nothing really to mention there. Just again, just following the instructions. The next thing are the rear hub carrier. There's two of these, left and right. and they come with the position where you have to install these two bearings either side. So for now I'm just going to position them and press them in a little bit, if they'll go in a little bit. Yeah, they do a little bit either side. Then you've got the bearing press tool. The rear part of it goes through the rear of this, and then this threads on as before, and we just need to get the appropriate tool, which I'll go and get now. Just need a big daddy hex key for this. So that's that. And then just wind the bearing in, or wind the bearing press tool in, and hopefully you can see that the bearing starting to move slowly into the right position. Just keep winding it in until you hit real resistance like that. That's it. It's not going to go in anymore. Just wind that off. Just take the other part of that bearing press tool out. There you go. So they're in firmly where they should be, these two bearings. Smart tool, that. Really smart tool. So we're going to do the other one now. Just press it in ever so, just as much as you can, just to get them in position. And then, as before, pass the first part through the rear of the hub, and then this part will go on and thread into position. I'll lock that off at the back. Just wind that in. It's a brilliant little tool, this. Really well thought out again by HPI. Once we've done this, we're just going to talk about, there's a part here, and I understand that's hit its resistance. Yeah, I understand you've got different options for this, so I'm going to go down the route of what they recommend in the instructions, and I'll talk you through that in a second. So that's it. No need for that bearing tool at the moment, so we'll just put that back. Do it the other way. Just wind that back in, put that out of the way for the time being. We don't need that for now. Now we've got the rear hub carrier bearings installed, we need to think about putting these axles in, and they present themselves from the rear of the unit. I think I'm doing this right. Slide through like that, make sure they're all the way in, and they're doing their job, spinning around beautifully like that. Then we have the axle nut itself, I'm going to call it, might have got that wrong. That slides over there, that's gone on there beautifully. Then there's a pin that slides through there, and then once that's in place, there's a locking nut, and this is the first time it calls for some red thread locker. Just so I happen to have loads of that because of my tank building. So, and I can understand why, because this is obviously going to get a huge amount of stress when operating, and that is obviously going to lock that pin in. So let's just wind that in, and what I'm going to do is put something in there just so that to stop that from, so I've got some resistance. difficult with one hand, but you get, there we go, it's nice and tight, and that's spinning around as it should do. And that's obviously going to connect to one end. That's going to be the drive shaft, I guess, that's going to connect into the main drive case assembly. So that's that one, nicely done. Just double checking I've done everything correct. I think I have. So that's that one. We'll go on and do this one now. Same process. In from the rear. Everything just seems to fit perfectly, really, really nicely. Line that up with the hole. Slide the pin in. Oh, just everything fits perfectly, and then it goes. There we go. No, it does. It's just me being awkward. Let's start again. Let's hold that. Slide that through. Getting the locking screw, some thread locker on that. Oops. Bit excessive with the thread locker again, time. And that just winds in. And again, like I did before, might use a, is that too thick? No, that's perfect. Just offer something in that slot to give you some resistance when tightening that up. It's on there nice and tight, spinning beautifully as it should. So just wipe all that off. I'm going to get that down my cast. I'll tell you what, it's, at time of filming this, the UK is, well, certainly the southeast of the UK is experiencing what I would call a heat wave. And if you've ever been in a cast, or anybody who's broken a limb, a leg or an arm or whatever, you know what I'm talking about with the heat, and one of these things on your arm is a nightmare. Right, now, mentioned earlier on about options. So what on this, what goes through here is one of these, and it's quite clear it's got option 4. And when you first look at these, you think, well, what's the difference? But there are markers on them. I don't know if you can see that, but this one's actually got 4 markers, 3 markers, 2 markers, 1 marker, and there's nothing on this one. And I was looking at these, studying them, thinking, what's the difference? And then it occurred to me. So there is a difference, and that difference is I'm going to snip off number 4, because that's what they ask us to do. And when I look at this, and if you pass through one of these large pins, you can see, hopefully you can see, it's running at an angle, and each one of those is at a different angle. So this is obviously the position, I get the angle or the location, the position of the wheels, I guess. I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but if you are a experienced Baja builder, correct me on that by all means, but I'm guessing it's to do with the angle that you set the wheels to. So I don't know if that's coming off clear enough on the camera, but that's certainly at an angle. So it asks to do 4, so we are choosing 4, so that's the one I've chosen. And then it talks about making sure the right orientation. So let's just get the main carrier frame back and put these on. Right, so time to install these now. So I've got it in the right orientation according to the instructions, and then we've got this piece here which I talked about earlier, and it shows you a diagram in the instructions that these 4 little markers, I don't know if they're coming across in the camera, those 4 little markers on here point towards the wheel side. Now there is only one orientation this will go in, so just making sure that these 4 strokes here are pointing towards the wheel side. I'm just pushing that in. So that's that. Then there is a grub screw that secures this, but I think we'll put this onto the carrier first. Just having a look and see if there's any spacers or anything required. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. So we'll put, as before, we'll put one of these E-clips on the end of that, and hope it doesn't spring away, and that's on there. So that's on there like that. That's pointing in the right orientation, and slide that in, then through there. I'll just turn this around a bit. I can see, yeah. That's in, and I can see the angle. I don't know if it's clear on the camera, but that's actually in at the angle now. So I'm guessing that's all deliberate and there is rationale behind that, but again, I don't actually know what it is, so please forgive me. Now we'll just put the clip on the other side of that. And then we'll put the grub screw in. And we'll put the grub screw in. And that grub screw goes in the end in this hole here. And that just goes through there. I guess that just locks that sleeve in place. Just going to tighten it up until I get some resistance. And there is the resistance. So that's that. That's one side done. I'll go on and do the other side and then I'll be back to camera. Right, so that's both sides done, left and right, on the rear, and you do begin to get another sense of how big this kit is, because obviously wheels got to go on here, and that's going to come out even wider. So yeah, it's a monster, absolute monster. So anyway, we're going to park this up for now, because now we're going to get on to something that I'm really excited about doing, and also very, very apprehensive. So I'm going to spend a bit of time just going through these instructions myself, but this is the diff case assembly, and it's a huge amount of work involved in this. So what I'll probably get done today will be get up to this stage here, stage 54, and then leave it. I just want to try and get this built today because I'm really keen to see how it works, and then we'll call it a session. So anyway, I'll go and find the right kit bag, and then I'll be straight back. All right, so I found bag E, which is the diff bag, but what I hadn't noticed, you might have picked up in the camera in the previous shot, is I forgot to put this piece on here. So no dramas, just took the clips off, put this back on, E-clips back on, job done. So that's that. So I'm just going to park this up out of the way for now, and then we're going to go on to kit bag E. So let's have a look inside this bag. We have multiple parts that we've got in here. This is a first for me. We've never ever done anything like this before. So that's the diff oil. They give you all of this, so we're going to need that. So let's open all this up. Don't know if we're going to need all of that. And then we've got all these multiple components. Frightened to open these bags actually, just in case things go missing. Let me see how bag. Let's open this one up. This looks like an intricate bag. Scary. Got to be careful because there's some grease and oil on these, so it's all part of the axle, drive shaft. bush, gear cogs, there's 4 of those, more gear cogs, very intricate indeed. Small, is that a bearing? Yes, a small bearing, super duper size bearing, small bearing, another super duper size bearing, and another brass bush. So let's put these in here out of the way. I don't know why I've got a spare grub screw. I've definitely used the 2 grub screws that I needed. Maybe they're just over generous. So that's that. Those 2 bags there. That's obviously the housing. So let's get that open. Main drive gear, I think. That's the housing. That is beautifully made, absolutely beautifully made. So let's move those. I'm going to keep these in these little bags for now because they're quite small. I'm quite worried about losing some of those parts. So let's just look at this casing, beautifully made. It's just gorgeous, just beautiful. Now all these little gears and everything have to go in here and be meshed and synchronized perfectly. So that's going to have to be very carefully assembled. So I will now spend a bit of time just looking at the instructions, trying to get my head around this, and we'll get started. Okay, I think I've got my head around it for certainly for the first part, the assembly of the left and right hand side of the diff case. Now there is a left and a right hand side, and the build is slightly different, I think. Well, let's just follow the instructions. So just in case I got a bit carried away, I've just marked them left and right on here. The very first one it asks us to build is the right hand side, so this is this one here. And on the outside of the case you have a couple of bearings. Well, firstly let's put the there's a little rubber washer that goes inside there. That just tucks in there. Then you have this small bearing. It's asking to put thread lock on this for, I guess, on the outside. Yeah, I guess on the outside to lock the bearing in place. But they don't ask for the inside, so I'm just going to see how difficult that is to push it in. It is quite tough. Just might need a little bit of encouragement with my little rubber mallet. I'm not hitting that very hard at all. So that's in. That's that little bearing in there with its rubber gasket. There is this little brass bush goes on the inside of this. I'm not sure if it's asking that to be glued in. Let's have a look. It definitely says thread lock, it looks like, to the outer wall of this, and I guess it's just to stop this bigger bearing from sliding. I mean, I would normally use like a bearing lock on that, but anyway, let's do it as they ask us to do. So I'm going to use the red thread locker. I'll be a bit more sparing with this. Just use this tool just to spread that around. I have been looking forward to this, at the same time really apprehensive about it because I do not want to mess this up. I've never done anything like this, but that's the beauty of this hobby. You know, you can't keep staying in your comfort zone. You do need to push the boundaries, and I really hope that that comes across in this build, because I have got to a point of a reasonable level of comfort. So that's going to need a bit of encouragement. That's going to need a small timber block if I can find one, and I'm just going to pop that on there. That's now down. So that's that bearing's in place. as I was saying, you know, I get quite comfortable with the Armortech builds now, so I'm actually really pleased I'm doing something a little bit more challenging. So that there, apart from this little metal bush, this brass bush, which pushes into the underside of that, I've got my trusted bearing knocker, which I'm going to use to hammer that into place. That's down there nice. That's nice and tight. So that is that part. Still really nervous about this. Now on the inside, there's some components to go on the inside, which then you pass this through. This shaft passes through. That's actually just push that bearing out. So okay, so we just need to be mindful of that. Tempted to put some kind of thread lock on that as well, but it doesn't ask for it. And so inside this case you have one of these beautifully made plates. I've no idea what it does, and I don't even know what we call it. So again, if you're an experienced builder, let me just have a look at this. There's two sides. The edges look exactly the same, so I don't think there's no mention of it going in one direction or another. But this slots inside here with the pattern. Look at that, it's just gone straight in. Beautiful. And then now you pass. Oh, we're asked to put some bearing oil. Sorry, diff oil on this. I've got to be really careful here. I don't want to get any of this on my. So there's some silicone oil required for the axle. Just rub that around like so. That then passes underneath through the bearing, hopefully. There we go. Let's just pop that back over that. So that's in there now. So that's that. Then we have this gearing mechanism here. Just having a look and see if there's a right way or a wrong way for this to go in. There's a slot in the back of that. Let me have a look at that. They're both the same. They are. Trying to work out whether that's got any other requirements, but it doesn't seem to be. It just seems to just slip over that, so that goes in there like that. And then there is a grub screw, or a screw, a bolt, which doesn't ask for thread locker, but I'd be inclined to do it. But anyway, I'm not going to do it in case I mess this up. So let's just pop that, tighten that down. Nothing securing this just yet. And then there's another securing screw which goes through the side here. Now they do ask for a thread locker on that. I just wonder if, what does that lock off? Just interested to see. That's all popped out. Just wondering what locks this into place, if anything at all. Yeah, that doesn't seem to do anything, that. Just make sure that that bearing is in, and it is. That's down there. Yeah, this doesn't seem to lock anything into, lock this into position. So I'm wondering if I've misinterpreted anything there, or maybe that is just to I don't know. What does it do? I'm going to do a bit more. I'm going to look into this a little bit more, just in case I've cocked that up. Yeah, completely cocked that up. So, from what I can see, this plate goes in here, like that. Then you have this pin that passes through here,
guess we can just push that in through there. And then that slot in the back of that somehow that's better. Right, that's not going anywhere now. So that's in there now, like that. So yeah, it just goes to show you, when you think you've got everything just as it's asked you to do. So we've got the plate in there, we've got the axle in there, we've got the grub pin in, and then we've got this gearing mechanism in, and that's locked into place there. And then they still ask you to put this screw on. Maybe that's just to lock the pin in. Hard to tell. So that's come out. No idea why that would do that, but anyway, let's try and get that back into. It's doing its job. It's doing its job. I don't know if you can turn. You can see that turning, rotating. So that's as far as I can see there. And then there's a screw. That does that lock? Yeah, and there's a washer. So we have. Doesn't tell us what the washer is, does it? O-ring black. That's a 75077. Excuse me while I. Okay, so there is a little O-ring there. That's another little seal. Obviously goes in there. So I'll push that into place. And then we have one of these fixings, and this one actually asks you to thread lock that into position. Make sure I've got the right size fixing for this, tool for this. Let's have a look. That could be the one. It is. So put a bit of thread locker on that. Then that screws through there into that. And tightens up. This is still loose. So that's now spinning, doing its thing. Just still, I guess when the other gears go around it, it locks it in place. It doesn't go anywhere. So that's doing that. So that's that one. Done. Wow. Okay. Let's go on to do the next one. So that's both left and right now complete. So the next step is to build up the side gears. And there's some parts that you're going to require off the parts tree itself, which I have retrieved these. There's 4 of these required. Just keep those off there. In the bin. And you've got these 4 parts here, and you've got these 4 metal washers here. And we'll start with the left hand side one first. So from what I can see, you turn this around, you pop one of those metal washers on the back of that so it sits in there perfectly. Then that slides into position like that, and then you take one of your gear wheels and pop that into that slot. Hopefully that's quite clear. And then same again. I'm going to work round rather than opposite, so I can try and hopefully get them to mesh. Just going to turn those. They're meshing okay, that's fine. Obviously when the differential oil goes in, you want that to be a silky smooth kind of operation. It's all a bit loose at the moment. I'm sure it'll all tighten up as Is there a right way or wrong way? Not sure. Seems to be going in the way I envisaged. That's 3 of the 4. I'm just checking that they mesh, and they do. Then we can see that. Now the tricky one. Let's have a look. So we've got one more of these. There's only one way they can go in, by the way, because they're curved. I think I might pop that one in. So I'll slide it in all at the same time. Let's just see if that they're all meshed. Yeah, all meshing. You can see that. So they're all in and meshed. Now there's a couple of pins that need to go through here to lock all this through. So I'm just going to find those. Well, I can see them. I'll get those, and we'll be straight back. Right, so I've got the pins, and these pins have got little slots in them to lock together. There we can see that. See if I can show that on the camera. Little slot. And the first one's going to go in with the slot up, and I'm going to have to lift this up a little bit just to get that pushed through. That's through. Just sort of, and turn that round. So now we're going to have to lift these up. I'll lift the first one up. Get that. Sorry, I'm doing this awkward. That needs to go in, spin round so there's slots on the bottom. Now I'm going to lift the opposite one up. So that should pass through, and I'm hoping they're just going to slot in. That's it, they're in. So you can see that. So they're now they're now crossed and slotted together. And that's it. They don't do much more than that. I'm just going to keep testing this to see if it's still meshing beautifully, and it is. Do you know, it was something that was quite worrying for me. It's gone really, really well. I'm really pleased with that. I mean, it's just, again, credit to HPI for their instructions and how they tell you how to build this. It's incredible, and the beautiful engineering of this is incredible. Right, so the next job is to fill this with oil. Right, so we're going to fill up. They tells you in the instructions to fill up to the halfway point, which is basically this point here on the shaft. So this point just on the top of the edge here. So obviously we don't want it spilling out everywhere. So let's just do that. Hopefully this is going to give us a lovely soft meshing relationship with all the gears. Just move this instructions out of the way for a minute so I can move that over and have a look. Yeah, still a way to go. Want that to be, that movement to be like soft as butter. It's just slowly filling up. Have a look at that. Yeah, that's lovely. You can feel that sort of, it's just meshed beautifully. So I'm using the rods that have gone through and connected the side gears up as a bit of a gauge to where I finished the oil level. Takes more oil than you think, you know. Well, not really. I'm just being overcautious, I guess. What I don't want is it spinning out around here. Now there's a gasket. Before I forget, let's put that gasket on. Let that oil just work its way through the gears. So there's a gasket that goes on around here. That's obviously to seal the diff, stop any oil leaking. Make sure that's in its little groove. I guess when the other part, when the right hand side connects to it, it'll be it'll clamp down into position. So there's still more oil to go in. Hang on, I think we're Are we there yet? Yeah, I think we're there. Just moving those gears around, letting the oil find its way through. That is silky smooth now. Really silky smooth. And the oil, just check it's not peeing out the bottom of that. Not sure how much more is going to be needed. Again, what I'll do is I'll just rotate those gears, get that oil. I'd say that's about it now, because it's, yeah, I'd say we're about right. I'd say that's about right. Now, so I'm going to align the diff screws here. I think these are like for filling. I'm going to line these up so they're on the same alignment. I've got to try and keep that other gear from not wanting to fall out, and at the same time try and hopefully get it to mesh. And that is doing exactly what I hoped it didn't do. It's not aligned. Okay. It's falling out. Guess that's in there. Let's try and do that this way round. Just trying to work out what the problem is, why it's not going together. Alright, I might have done something wrong here, guys, so let me look into that and I'll be straight back. No, it wasn't. It was just me being an idiot. So that's now tightly fitted together. Now, the final part of this build, of this kit bag, is the main drive gear itself. And that, let's just move the instructions back into my view. Put the lid back on that silicone oil. And this main drive gear here slides over the top of this, lining those holes up. It locks into position. Then we have our securing bolts. Now these, I'll be surprised, yeah, it's thread locker definitely required here. So what size hex fixing do I need? Let's have a look. That is the right one. Red thread locker required, and I know why, because this will go on, you know, this will be submitted to so much stress and vibration. I'm not surprised. And we've got the spring washer on there. Just screw that down. I'm not going to tighten that up just yet. Load that up, the other spring washer. Sorry, I'm just pausing there. I just want to double check something, but the way I'm doing it seems to be right. Obviously, these stages are so important to the build, fundamentally important. If you don't get this right, your car's not going to drive correctly. So I'm going to go opposite side. Again, I'm not tightening that up just yet. We'll go around and tighten those up in a moment. I'm just double checking that I've done everything right. I'm pretty sure I have. But like you saw earlier, it's quite easy to leave a few bits out. So one good tip would be to make sure that in your parts box, when you've emptied out all your bags, and into your parts box, you've got nothing left over in your parts box, like this tray here. So, I mean, I'm saying that there's a few parts there that just were part of another bag, but they're not due to go in just yet, but you know, this tray is all empty with all the small parts that came out of that kit bag. And the last one. Now we can go around and tighten all these up. And that is it. That's done. And that is a hefty piece of machinery. That just feels quality. I mean, the Baja is a legendary vehicle anyway, so over the years and years and years they've developed the mechanics of it to improve on some of its sort of weaknesses that other people would have found in the early stages, but this just in your hand feels a really nice weighty piece of engineering and beautifully put together, so to make the builder's life so easy. So something that I was concerned about with and looking forward to with some apprehension, it's actually it actually turned out to be really well. So I'm just making sure that everything's milky smooth, and it is really lovely. Yeah, couldn't be more pleased. So just have a pack up and I'll be back to camera. Right, well that's it for today. I'm quite pleased with that session actually. Got ahead and we started the rear carrier frame and the axle hubs, and this amazing piece of kit. This is the differential. This is the really key part of the build. Really pleased how that went, and as I said, just handling it, you could just get a sense of the quality and the engineering that goes into these kits from HPI Racing. So we're up to stage 54 of the build, and in the next session I'm just going to carry on. I'm just going to go step by step, kit bag by kit bag, and see how far I get. So I'll just say thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you if you are one of my tankers to continue watching me. As I said before, this build is helping me through this healing process, because I just cannot do some of the work on the Series 1 that I want to with my current conditions. So thank you for having the patience. If you're completely new to my channel and you've just found it, please subscribe, because we have a ton of work still to do in this Baja, and I will be building this up to point of getting it going and racing it across a nice piece of land I've got and putting it through its motions. And again, just a massive thank you for all of your amazing support, all your wonderful comments and all your lovely kind words about my injury. It means the world to me. So I'll sign off now by saying I'm Tony. I love building these kits. Thank you for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.